Back by popular demand, this is the Turnbucklepad Podcast on YouTube.com. Respect wrestling or get out. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Turnbucklepad Podcast. And I have a special treat today. If you're from the Chicagoland area and you look for wrestling schools within the last 10 to 15 years, you might have heard of one called the Steel Domain. Today's guest is none other than the head trainer, owner, Danny Dominion. Danny, thanks for coming on, man. It's great to have you.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
How's things going with you, man? I know you took a little bit of a hiatus there for a little while.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, I haven't actually really been involved with the business that much. Over the course of the past year, I had some dealings once I came back to Chicago with a promotion called Our Pro in Billy Corrigan, and we were shooting a it was like a reality TV show type of thing, and we got about halfway into it, and the production company of A&E basically pulled the plug on all reality TV shows. So basically, unfortunately, that was the end of that. So from there on, I went over to Pro Wrestling Blitz, Tony Scarpone's promotion.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him.
Kind of helped out with some finishes and angles and just some stuff with the shows here and there, and helped some of the young guys. And now I'm getting actually back into the ring on the 28th of this month for Blitz, and also the following week for Dave Hero for Great Lakes Championship Wrestling Blizzard Brawl in Milwaukee.
Nice.
So yeah, first time in 10 years. So I'm sure my body's going to be in for a little bit of a shock once it starts bumping around again. But I've been rolling around a little bit in one of the local gyms over here just to kind of get ready,
Right now, obviously, I'm pretty sure CM Punk's name's going to come up in this. So the only question that I'm going to ask regarding this situation is that, that you see these guys come up and they tell such a great story and they captivate you in every way they're supposed to. And Punk was one of those guys. And he was too good for the WWE, so to speak, in a positive way, because he did a great job. Well, how did you find that in this guy? When you decided, you were going to work with him and help train him, did you see it right away, or did it develop over time?
Well, okay. Well, here's the thing. Phil found us. Phil came to us to Steel Domain on Irving Park, and basically spoke to me and said he wanted to be trained. He started off with kind of like I guess it's a backyard promotion. It was at the time LWF.
I remember.
They were actually doing pretty well on the south side of Chicago, and they're actually drawing people. They for not being formally trained, but Phil, CM Punk wanted to get formally trained. He wanted to move beyond that, so he came to us. I like what I heard from him. He seemed like a very motivated young guy. And I talked to, Ace Steele, my partner. And at the time, Ace wasn't really too hot about letting anybody come into our place, when it came down to guys that were kind of allegedly backyarders.
Right.
But, I saw something in him. And once we let him in, him and Ace actually became, really good friends, and it was all cool. But Punk was, Punk, I could see from the get-go that he had something about him. He had a unique quality. A lot of people liked him. It's just, he's one of those guys that had kind of like the it factor in regards to people wanted to be around him. And that's one of the, things that is an it factor in the business that you could see when people gravitate towards an individual. They have something that the entertainment business needs. And Phil did have it. Now, did I know he was going or assume that he was going to become as big of a star as he did? Not right off the bat. I mean, nobody really can just see that right, from the get-go. I mean, I saw that he had the quality traits, and he had the youth, and he needed a lot of work. I mean, he was out of shape. Physically he wasn't in great shape, but he wanted it, and he had the drive. And believe me, he took a major ass beating at the steel domain because that's kind of how we did things. We
Right.
did them old school, and we made guys, either they hacked it or they couldn't, and most did, but he did.
Wow. Yeah, that's the old-fashioned training. Cause I pay a lot of attention to the way training is done now and the way training was done then. And if you read if you read almost any book, every wrestler will say they went to a trainer here or there and they literally killed me. And if you came back, you knew that was someone who wanted it.
Pretty much. I mean, we didn't look. I pride myself in being able to say that I think the worst injury that actually ever happened at the domain was a busted head, some stitches off of a shoot headbutt
Ooh.
that actually grabbed by an Adam Pierce gave to Ricky Noga when they were working, and it was just kind of on, it wasn't on purpose, I don't think, but it happened. But the beatings that we gave guys or the drills that we ran them into the ground with, those are physical conditioning drills, and the bumps and the brutal stuff wasn't done in a way that was stiff. It was just snug. We really liked Ace and I really enjoyed the way guys like Chris Benoit worked. The snug Jap style where everything was put in and meant something. So we like to train guys that way. So that was just the way we did things, and I don't regret it. Nowadays it's a little bit of a different business. It doesn't seem like guys really, for the most part, are made of the same material as what they were 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm not around the business. I'm around the business a little bit, but the stuff that I'm seeing, it just really doesn't cut it for the most part. I mean, there are a handful of guys out here that I've seen in a few of the training centers that I frequent that are working pretty hard, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that they might be able to take it, but like I said, it might be 1 in 25, 30. So
Yeah. Yeah, it goes to show this. So, let's since you've been doing this, and I have this question too, it's been puzzling me because I know that the business is kind of driven by the economy.
sure.
Now, when you were running the steel domain, the economy was pretty good, right?
Actually, the economy was very good. The business was on a huge upswing. We started the domain in November of '97, and we went through I think 2000. I think it was almost 2003, 2002, the end of 2002, beginning of 2003. So we weren't really open for that long of a period of time, but it was obviously during the start of the Attitude Era, and that was when the business was doing good. And like you said, yeah, the economy was doing great.
So,
It was, and I don't know. It just the business was a lot different back then. You still had a lot of the guys that were into partying, and the guys in WWE and WCW. Afterwards they go out partying all night. That's how it was. There was big money being made,
oh,
and
I'm
now
sure I
not.
remember.
What was that?
I'm sure I remember.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just it's a different atmosphere now. Now most guys go back to the hotel rooms and watch, some of the matches and stuff, which is kind of cool in a way because a lot of the drugs and issues regarding the business are kind of one of the things that pushed me away at that time. It
Okay.
was one of the reasons why I got out of the business, but then unfortunately was um, I don't know, my whole demeanor changed when I did get out of the business for the bad. So, the business kind of kept me grounded, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of come back.
Kind of gave you something to focus.
Sure, focus on it. Plus, I really do enjoy helping the younger guys, the ones that really want it, because they are there. It's difficult because the times are different, and see, there's power in numbers, and that was one of the reasons why we had a good reputation at the domain. It wasn't about we didn't allow just anybody to come and train with us. There was a specific, I don't even know. I asked a lot of questions, and basically, even if someone joined, we basically kind of worked them up to,
Okay.
to a spot to where if they weren't going to cut it, we knew, and we just kind of, you know, made it so that they would quit and leave because just, so the whole purpose of it was to form a crew of guys because, like I said, there's power in numbers that could kind of go out together, ride the roads together, and make a name for ourselves, and it really helped and it really worked.
Oh,
At this
obviously,
point,
very much so.
I mean, basically, the core of the group was obviously myself and Ace Steel, Colt Cabana, um, CM Punk, and then there were some guys that kind of came and went that kind of jumped in and jumped out. Guys like Ricky Noga, who we trained, Brad Bradley. His name now is Aiden O'Shea. He's in TNA. Kevin Quinn, who actually was in Wind City with both me and Ace, and also came and trained, helped train, Punk and everybody in the domain when we, I think somewhere around '98, he came back from California. Don't forget, he also trained, let's see, Cena, Samoa Joe. So you're talking about, between myself and Kevin and Ace, Lita, we trained Lita. She came to us basically a month after we opened and trained with us for 3 weeks and slept in the gym. you know.
It's
Um,
amazing you say that. It's really amazing you say that, Danny, because I can recall maybe about my first or second year being exposed or involved in the business at all. One guy was showing me a training DVD, and in it was John Cena, Samoa Joe, Kazarian, Christopher Daniels,
yep.
another guy, another field. I'm like, wow. I thought I was the
Yeah.
only one who knew about this.
Oh no, yeah. Well, Daniels was already trained at that point. He was living in. He moved to California, and he helped Quinn at I think it was UPW, where Quinn was one of the main trainers there. Training a lot of those people. And Daniels actually started with me at Windy City. He started in '91. I started in '92. I think Daniels came around in '93. Um, there was like an 8 or 9 month difference between me and Christopher Daniels. Um, when it came to when we started. But yeah, it's like the roots run deep here in Chicago. Um,
Yeah, they
you
do.
know, and especially from that group that started between like '91 and '93 at Windy City. You've got a lot of guys, besides myself and Ace and Kevin Quinn and Christopher Daniels. You've got Steve Boggs also, who still currently has a training center here on the Northwest Side,
Yeah,
and he's trained guys like Kalisto and a handful of guys that are in WWE and
yeah,
NXT
yeah. One of
right
the
now.
vaudevillains too, Matt Marquis.
Who is that? Matt Murphy?
Matt Marquis.
Oh, Matt Marquis.
He's one of the vaudevillains on NXT.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I know him as one of the vaudeville guys. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's pretty weird how or wild how everything kind of branches out. We got taught by Sonny and Sam. And then I opened myself and Ace opened up a school, and then a few years later after we shut down, and it's another thing. The reason we shut down wasn't because we weren't making a lot of money. That wasn't really, unfortunately. I wasn't the best businessman because I wasn't looking at the school as a means of making money, but more so as a means of having a place that we can train better ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was obviously poor business, poor business foundation on my end. I should have been able to do both, but once I started doing tours of Australia, I did stuff for WWA, and I was getting other offers. It didn't seem like Ace he didn't want to keep the place open. He said he really didn't feel like doing it. So basically we kind of all went our separate ways. So I really regret it now, of course, because if we would have kept the gym running and maintained it, it's safe to say we'd probably be doing really well with that right now. But
Yeah,
there was some
yeah, it'd be needed.
disrespect in the ranks between myself and Ace and Punk at a specific time period. That's over and done with. But back then, I don't want to say it was nasty. It was just kind of weird.
Right.
There was a lack of communication, and then there was an issue, and then basically there was some heat, and throughout the years, I didn't get back in touch with them until way down the line, So that's basically about it with that.
Well, the good thing is, though, you did get back in touch.
Yeah, well, you know what? Me and Ace were high school buddies, so I mean that's something I don't know a lot of people don't know. We went to the same high school, Luther North, on the northwest side, and you know,
Wow.
we, yeah, we, so did another guy by the name of Mad Mark Ostlabor who did some, he did stuff in LWF and some local stuff here. So did Keith Walker. Um, he went to Luther North, but he was I think about 3 or 4 years behind us, or behind me. So a little bit younger. But, he did some stuff for NWA and stuff in Japan. Keith was doing really well for a little bit. So it's kind of wild how, this area has produced some, Keith Walker also did stuff for WWE. He was he was down in Tampa or wherever when they had the first, developmental down there.
Okay. Now,
So,
you were a trainer, and it was during a good era because the internet hadn't really taken over yet. It was
mm-hmm.
still be developmental. So, do you think because I know kayfabe was kind of out the door, or coming to the point where it was gonna be? Do you think
Okay.
because before the internet really took over, there was still a way to maintain it? There was still a way to keep it going and keeping it special before the internet take over.
What do you mean, like the kayfabe?
Well, yeah, like kayfabe. We knew the business was starting to get exposed before the internet really took off.
Sure,
We kind
sure.
of
Yeah,
knew that, but you still
yeah.
have more mystique hanging over it.
Oh, definitely, and it was still like that to a point. I mean, we still had dirt sheets and stuff, but that took a little bit more time to get out to people. But now it's like it's such a different place and time. Um, really, we all of us that got to experience it, we should really be thankful and grateful because it was such a cool time, in the business. And guys were making so much money. I mean, guys that were on top in like WCW, they were working one night a week, and making,
Yeah,
depending on who they were, guys like Kevin Nash. I mean, shit, he made $1 million a year easy.
he's
He
a
was working one night a week.
he's a former guest, and I can proudly say I didn't pay anything.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, it was a good time to have a training center and to open up. And now I don't know, man. I mean, there's a few guys around here that are doing decent with it, but I don't know. It's just the ratings are down in the crapper. That I guess a lot of it has to do with the way WWE has their network and stuff. I guess so things are a little bit different. According to what Brian James said, he says that this has been the best year for one of the best years for WWE so far money wise. The last quarter was, and I'm kind of in awe of that. I
Mhm.
don't see how, but I guess maybe the international markets are doing well. I don't know. I don't keep, like I said, I don't really keep up with it that much, the business end. I just kind of do it now because it's fun, and it's one of those things where you're not so stressed out when you're doing it for fun. When you do it for the love of it, like you did when you started, it becomes special again. When you're doing it to basically make it a profession, the backstage politics and bullshit that around 2001, 2000, between 2000 and 2003, it was awful. I mean, just waiting for dark matches, doing all this, going and doing all these different things, and then hearing the same old bullshit. And with WWE back then, it was one of those things where they loved the fact that they were getting attention from guys like me, calling them and sending them tapes. And then when I finally said fuck it, excuse the expression,
It's cool.
they basically continued to call me all the for the course of a year and a half. When I said, hey, look, I'm out. I've got a son, and I can't be treated like a 12-year-old. I'm
Right.
not living in my mom's basement. Um, so if that's how you treat people, that's not the way. I'm not up for it right now. But I mean, I didn't say it like that. When they called me and when they were in town, basically I just gave the gig to another one of my trainees, um, and to underwear model Eric Priest, and he basically started to help book guys, talent, extras for WWE when they come into the Midwest, like I did.
Nice.
Sure.
This is I'm sitting here just getting lost in the story because it's amazing that this was right here in my own neighborhood for all these years and never knew.
Yeah, you know what the thing is back then we kept things hush hush. We kept the windows covered and everything back then. See, now if I were doing it, man, I'd want as much window space as I possibly could. You know, it's like back then we were trying to keep the business from being exposed while everybody else was starting to expose it and making money off of it. And you know, now it's a different day. Like, you know, Danny Cage out in New Jersey has the Monster Factory that he purchased from Larry Sharp or whoever he bought it from. I mean, now he has, $4.99. You can watch episodes or get some kind of monthly subscription, just like WWE, where you can see what happens in his training center and all these different things. And he tapes everything, and it's a beautiful school. And he's doing really well with it because he's just really, he really knows how to market and do things the right way. So, that's just the way you have to do things, in order to take care of business. Now, there's no more kayfabe. You can expose everything and make as much money as you can off it.
Yeah, do you think that mentality though is kind of disrespecting the tradition of wrestling when people are coming in just
Well,
for that reason alone?
you know what? I mean, unfortunately, I think it's gone past the point of no return. And, everyone's like, well, yeah, you know what? Yeah, there's a bunch of us that like to kick some of these guys' asses from one end of the freaking city to the other, and chase them out of the business. But it's so overran by marks and guys that don't want to train hard, don't want to put in the work, that it really muddies the waters for the handful of guys that actually do bust their ass
Mm-hmm.
and work hard. But it also separates those guys, like, and puts them on a on a level that is so much higher right off the bat. So it's like there was a point where I wanted to, I was going to open back up and start to seek out individuals in gyms, people in college that, were on the wrestling team or didn't make the football cut into the NFL, because those people usually have what it takes when it comes to determination and athleticism and, drive to actually achieve a goal. Some of these kids, and I'm not going to name any names, they go to a wrestling school and, 3 years later, they're still not getting booked out of anywhere else except for the place that they started wrestling at. And what they do is they get mad at that guy, and then they open up their own school or their own promotion. And because that guy wouldn't continue to book them past a specific level because they didn't get a body on them. So now all of a sudden you got another group, of guys that instead of working hard, they just go and buy a ring and do the same thing, Joe Blow before that did. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why the business has gone into the crapper. But it's to the point to where it's like that all over. And the athletic commission was shut down here in Chicago years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Vince paid to get that done, and by doing that, it really did hurt the business here in the Midwest, in Chicago. But the thing is I'm not bitter about it. I
Right.
go to a show and I can watch these kids and say, hey, you know what, this is what it is. They're trying to put on a show and be entertaining. Do I like the fact that they don't look like wrestlers, or basically, three-quarters of the fans could beat their ass? No, obviously I don't like that. But I mean, there's a lot of things in this world I don't like. I don't like politicians. I don't like the
Yeah.
federal government. But I mean, it's like throwing a pebble at a steel door.
It,
So you can continue to teach people the respect of the business and how things were done before, and hope that they'll pass it on. Or you can grab a few of those guys that really do seem to respect it and just take them under your wing and help them out. There's a handful of guys from the Midwest that I've been, actually not only from the Midwest, from all over the country that I've done that with. I watch their matches, I critique them, I tell them what they can do better and how they can, perform at a higher level. So, also getting training tips. The gym, I'm, a certified PT, and I know a lot about personal training and physiques and getting yourself in condition for any kind of sport, because that's what I've done for 25 years. So.
this has really been amazing. It's really been an amazing
Thanks. I'm
conversation.
jabbering off, man. Honestly, I can go on forever. Unfortunately, I'm like, put a quarter sir in me, and that's it. So that's all I am when it comes to talking about the business with guys who are asking, legitimate questions, not, hey, what do you think about, this guy at WWE with this angle? I don't know. WWE honestly isn't something I really watch much of anymore. It's horrible. I mean, if I'm going to watch anything, honestly, I'll tell you what, the majority of the indie wrestling right now, or not majority of it, but some of the indie wrestling right now, I get more entertained out of watching that than I do WWE.
Me too.
It's just the same old shit. WWE every time I put Raw on. Now NXT, it's a different story. I've seen some of that, and of course, I got to put Adam Pearce over. Here's another kid who came to my gym about a year into his training. We opened up, and he came over to us with Adrian Lynch from Sonny Rogers, and Pearce was really tight in our circle for a long time too. Then he moved out to San Diego. Now he just so happens to be the head producer of NXT and a trainer for WWE at the Performance Center.
Wow. One thing I gotta say thank you for is with the guys you trained and the quality they gave, you really pushed for uniqueness and creativity. It sounds like that was a very big thing that came with your training.
You know what? This was something that I always pushed. Is basically you have to find your niche and be different from everybody else, or and solidify your spot, and and your uniqueness in whatever it may be, and that's what we did. Push guys like Punk. That was who he was already. I'm not taking any credit for that. I take some credit for training Punk and working with him and getting him better and pushing him harder, and basically even more so the backstage things where I was liaison between the boys and the promoters for in many areas in the Midwest especially, and I think he picked up on how I do things business-wise with some of the promoters, and basically he absorbed everything. That's why he became so good, because he absorbed a lot of the good things from a lot of the people around him. And Pearce was like to all these guys. They had trust in myself and Ace and Kevin, his trainers and his friends, and we were all really tight. And they knew that we weren't going to lead them in the wrong direction. So because of that, we all became that much better as a unit. And that's what's missing right now in wrestling is the camaraderie. Everybody seems to be, worried about their own spot. But here's the thing: if you're good enough and you join in, together with a few guys and work together and put each other over to promoters, you don't have to worry about your spot. That's what we did, and we all had our unique, special qualities that made people really, there's, like I said, power in numbers, man. When 5 guys yell, it's going to sound a lot louder than when 1 guy does.
That's true.
The equation that worked out for us.
And it worked very well, and the history and the work shows and speaks for itself. Well, check it out, Danny. We got a question for you. We ask this to all our guests, and I can't wait to hear your answer. What advice would you give to somebody that wants in the business or somebody that's new in the business?
Oh, okay. Well, there's a few things. First of all, make sure that you respect the fact that the business has deep roots, and you need to look a specific way or be at least in shape. You don't have to be a big bodybuilder that's all jacked up on steroids. You don't have to be like that, but you have to take pride in your appearance. This is an aesthetic business, and unless you look good and you could be marketed, you're not going to get hired or make any money. Also, like I said earlier, find your niche and be creative and try to be somebody that nobody else is. And if you have a gimmick, it's usually a little bit more difficult. But if you have a magnification of your own personality, it always ends up being a lot better and beneficial to you as a independent contractor. So, if it's taking three or four wrestlers and smashing them together because that's who you grew up watching and loving, then that becomes a new person, a new persona, and then you add you into that equation, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have a star. You get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's how that's how I explain it as best as I can is, in that way. So
Well, that makes perfect sense. Well, Danny, we really want to thank you for coming on the show because the knowledge that people are going to be hearing is exactly what people need to hear, not what everybody thinks is the right way. If you're going to go by
right,
any kind of pattern or history, go by the ones that speak out. And the steel domain and what came out of there speaks out loud.
cool. Thanks, bro. I appreciate you putting me over like that. Feels good.
I appreciate what was done for wrestling. I, like many
Well,
fans, they were realistic. We're not wrestlers, but we love the business. We want to give back.
hey, look, yeah, we're all in the business, and we all respect it. You know what? That's the thing. I had a lot of guys in the business who helped me out. One in particular, Road Warrior Hawk, who always told me, Danny, just make sure you give back to the guys that deserve it. And that's the one thing that I'm continuing on with my promise. That's the way I'm doing things. And if there's anything else I could say, guys, just work hard. Be cool with each other, have that camaraderie, and help each other out. And don't worry about putting yourself over. Put the show over. Each match is a chapter in a book. And if you're putting a specific match on the card, then know your role in that spot. If you're wrestling, before the intermission, your match needs to be hot to keep people, excited and to go get something to eat, or go to the bathroom and come back wanting more. If you're on before the main, there's certain things that you don't want to do. So, a lot of guys don't understand that, and that's something that they need to understand because a lot of these independent shows are really bad because guys don't know when or how to do what. So, just theory.
No, your theory speaks loud. Believe me, I've seen it too. All right, Danny. Well, we'll be looking for you and we'll be following you. In the meantime, fans, I'm your host, Mike Stover, and this has been my guest, Danny Dominion. Till then, we're out.